Hello guys, welcome back everybody. So this is not one of my regular videos. This is not fish or animal or plant related. However, as many of you know, I'm a first year teacher this year, and I teach biology and marine biology at the high school level or secondary school level. And I've gotten a lot of requests for me to go through what my teacher bullet journal looks like. Now, this is the bullet journal that I have right now, and I will be transferring to this new bullet journal at the end of the month. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys what things I really liked from this bullet journal that I'm going to be transferring to this journal. And then also some of the materials you need, or that I use rather, for my bullet journal. So I love these Leichtherm, not even sure if I'm saying it properly, 1917 bullet journals. And I love them because they have the dotted pages. And I really like this particular size because I found that this extra space made it really easy for my purposes in my teacher bullet journal. So if you look in here, you can see it's like it folds out really nice and flat. The dots make it easy to make big spreads like this, and when you're teaching you just have tons of stuff going on. And wow, if we look at October, you can see I got tremendously sick during October. Anyway, I like it too because it's got two of these bookmarks. We got a soft cover, so this thing isn't heavy at all. It's super easy to carry around with me. I take it everywhere I go now. And I just really like this bullet journal. In addition, I like to use washi tape sometimes to mark important days. I have a ruler. These are my favorite pens. They're the Friction Pilot pens, and I love them because they're erasable. Like, I make tons of mistakes, so having them erasable is really good. And then Post-its, and that's all that I use for my bullet journal. So now let's go ahead and flip through my old one and figure out what I want to transfer to my new one. So when we open up my old bullet journal, we see that the first year of teaching, my very first day, we had an awesome solar eclipse. That was really cool. Got a couple of my favorite quotes to kind of keep me going. Productively struggle, life is dynamic. Let's see what else. I love stickers, so this is from a conference at NASA that I went to this year. Being a new teacher is like trying to build an airplane while flying it, and this was totally true this year. The index that I started and then didn't really finish or use. Maybe, I think my plan is when I'm totally finished with this journal, I'll fill this in with like important things so that if I ever want to reference back to a particular activity, then I can. Teaching resources. So this page got utilized way more than I thought. When I originally made it, I didn't categorize all of the different resources that I found. And as it started expanding, I started categorizing them into just plain lesson planning, funding, professional opportunities, relationship building, technology, and then it spilled out to even more resources. I'm definitely going to be making an expanded version of my teaching resources in the new book. This is my academic calendar. Again, super useful. So every time I make a new monthly, I come back to this academic calendar so that I know exactly what's going to be going on in that month. So on this page, I have various schedules. The bell schedule here. We have kind of a shifting schedule throughout the week. We have Monday, Tuesday, Friday, we see all of our classes for an hour. Wednesday, Thursday are 96-minute blocks. And this was super helpful for me, especially at the beginning of the year when I didn't know the schedule very well. So I came back to this one again and again and again, and I loosely color-coded biology, marine biology, and then the lunch periods. So that helped a lot. You can see that this one is not shaded in because my schedule changed at the last minute. So it was really great that they were able to put all the marine biology classes together at the last minute. I've got a couple of Important numbers here, which should have been over here, but you know, it's okay. And then master schedules over here. So my school is huge, and all of these are science teachers. And that's how big my science department is. But this schedule has been amazing, because if I ever run into trouble, or perhaps a teacher has a resource that I'm really interested in, then I can just go into find their room, their extension immediately, and then also what they're doing. This helped a lot. I had a couple of emergencies where I had to reach out during a particular period, and I was able to really quickly at a glance see whose prep period it was. And then also all the people that are teaching the same curriculum that I am, in this case the 9th grade biology curriculum, I can at a glance tell which period that they have. This was really important, especially when we were sharing materials across periods and across teachers. So this page I'm definitely going to take with me. This page I totally forgot to use. I have an important numbers list somewhere else in this notebook. I totally forgot that I had put space for it. So this was kind of a sadly wasted page. I tried to do a pacing guide. In theory, this pacing should have worked, and you can see all the check marks are days when it worked. But then October hit and I got super sick. This was also a brand new curriculum for my school this year, and it just did not pace out like we thought it would. Marine biology, I just have a loose idea of what's going on, and so I wasn't able to make quite a structured pacing guide. I think a pacing guide will become more important for me later on in my career, when I have a better grasp of how long activities are going to take. And so I'm going to hold off on the pacing guide until I've taught something for 2 or 3 years at a time. And then I can have a really good idea of how long things are actually going to take. It was helpful in the beginning, but then just unforeseen circumstances, like certain activities just didn't come together. Other times I was really sick and things got pushed back, things like that. So the teacher dashboard, this was amazing. Okay, and I got this spread from Alexandra Plans. Her YouTube channel is excellent, and she's also a teacher. So that was really cool. The teacher dashboard helps so much. So over here I have things that I need to plan for the 2 classes that I teach. I have a list of biology materials. This is particularly good for if I have a long list of things to prepare for a lab, for example. I can just take the Post-it with me and go into the store and make sure that I grab everything. Over here we have what I need to grade. If I've crossed it out and put a check mark next to it, that means that I've graded it and it's in the online gradebook. Student check-in helped a lot. So these are students that I just want to keep an eye on. I try to get to know my students as well as I can throughout the year. And just, the students that I want to make sure that I check in on, maybe parent calls, but more I try to deal with the student as much as possible. In the high school level, they should be pretty independent. And then over here, calls, emails, and others. So these are the things that are kind of on the back burner that I want to get to eventually. Things like getting guest speakers on for later on in the semester, things like that. So the teacher dashboard, this is amazing. I just, no color code or anything, whatever Post-it is close enough to me at the time. And then I can take these out and run into the store with them, or I can just take them out when they get full. This is the best 2 pages in my journal. Okay, so personal goals. So this helped me a lot, especially because this is my first year of teaching. Sometimes it feels like I'm in a whirlwind and there's just so much going on, but having this page here keeps me focused. And that this year, I definitely wanted the students to leave my class being able to argue with evidence. That was the main goal for me this year. And also I wanted to develop my inner authority and my consistency in my classroom. So these are kind of just my goals personal goals as a teacher. Over here, I have a list of potential guest speakers, and I just write down their name, the position, possibly date or unit when they could come in, and then a contact if I don't know them super well. Field trips. So this poor page was just kind of a list of things I kind of wanted to do, and then it spilled over into my wish list. So this is all information for potential field trips, things that I want to do later on, like things I want to buy, things I want to order, things for the future like Brassica rapa. See, here's some fish. I want to bring in killifish and bettas into the classroom someday. So anyway, this is I'm definitely going to keep this wish list area. I'm going to try and figure out a way to make it more organized maybe. Personal attendance, so the date and the reason I was out. This is just to help me keep track of days that I'm out of the classroom. You can see I got quite sick. And then there were some professional development days and some field trips. Classroom management. So over the summer, I read this great book called Conscious Classroom Management. And these are just kind of my notes from this book, the major things that I took away, and these have been super helpful. So if I find myself having trouble with classroom management, I just kind of come back to this page and remind myself what I need to focus on. Procedures. So again, if you're a seasoned teacher and these procedures are things you've done for years, you probably don't need something like this. But for me, I really needed something like this. These are basically all of my classroom procedures, and I just wrote down these things to keep in mind, to try and be as consistent as possible. So these are all my classroom procedures. Okay, so the next part in my notebook is parent communication log and my ABC log. So these are actually oriented this way. This page was super, super helpful. So over here, date, the time, the method. Unfortunately, with our new system at school, email doesn't work. So I have to call everybody. Otherwise, I would email a lot more. The reason that I'm calling and any notes out of that phone call. And this was super helpful, especially date and time. I had a couple of parents that wanted further confirmation about their student, and I was able to remind them, well, we actually talked about it on this date at this time, and we talked about this. So this was really, really helpful to keep everybody on the same page. And before I would call, I would usually fill out this ABC log. Now, I really like this one. So date over here, time, or really just the period that it happened. So activity, so what activity was going on, behavior, what the behavior looked like, and the consequence, so what happened after as a result of that behavior. I really like this ABC log because it takes a lot of the emotion out of it, and you can start finding patterns with students' behavior. And so, for example, just by using this, I was able to figure out that one of my students actually needs to be able to stand and walk around a lot so that it can prevent negative behavior. And then as a consequence of that, we were able to figure out something for her that worked, and now she's really an asset to the classroom. So filling out this ABC log really helps find patterns in behavior of my students, and it really helps the classroom culture come together. So these two I highly recommend for any teacher because they were so helpful for me. All right, now we go into our first monthly. All right, so the first monthly is August, and this is generally how all of my monthlies are organized. I like having really big boxes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then any notes. So notes kind of turned into week goals, like what I wanted to get done on that week. Here we kind of see the more general bullet journaling conventions. All appointments are these open circles. And then when I got started planning, things started kind of messy. But Basically what I do is I have a little heading for biology and then a little heading for marine biology, what we're doing, any meetings that are happening that day, and then any particular notes that I need to incorporate in there. Okay, so this is what the rest of the notebook looks like, and I tried to find a typical day for you guys. So on a typical day, I'm teaching 2 classes, so I fold the day in half, biology and marine biology. I put the day at the top because that's really important for scheduling. I can share Wednesday and Thursday because I only see half of my classes on each day. What I do is I put a brief lesson plan at the top, and I'm talking super, super brief. The actual lesson plan is either in my head or on my computer. So this is super brief, 1, 2, 3 major things that we're doing. And this just kind of helps remind me the big things that we did that day. The most important part of my notebook is here. This is like the reflection part. And so you can see this day I was having difficulty dealing with different speeds. Some students are much faster than others, things like that. And then this looks like we were doing a lab in marine biology, common materials wants that I needed to get for the lab the next day, things like that. So this part is the most helpful for me. Literally what I do is right after class, I just jot down a couple of things from each period that really jumped out at me. And this has helped me identify ways to make my teaching so much better in a short period of time. This day, for example, this day I was planning on using Chromebooks from the library, and there were no Chromebooks available. So then I came up with an emergency plan kind of on the dot, and then I was able to write down in my book exactly what happened. And then later on, I was able to fix it down the line. And then these are like scribbles of stations and stuff like that. Basically, just notes. And then I also sprinkle in meeting notes every time there's like a lot of space, just to conserve space in this book. Again, this book is purely functional. It's not a pretty bullet journal, but man, it helps me so much. So for example, I'm really super tired from back to school night, things like that. This week was crazy. And so if we go on to the next monthly, you can see October was insane as well, but if we look closer at these different boxes, you can see that biology, what we're doing, marine biology, and then any meetings, and then hopefully yoga. So this month I was super, super sick. Yeah, but anyway, there's still some fun stuff going on. Like we had the Baymobile Touch Tank come in, so we had some guest speakers come in, things like that. And the rest of the book goes like this. Oh, these are notes from a conference that I went to. So any educational conferences that I go to, I also take my book. We get back into the dailies here. Here are department meeting notes. Just everything is in here, basically. This is my mind. This is what it looks like. Notes with like how labs are gonna go with more experienced teachers. Things start settling out November, December. I'm having a better idea of what I'm doing. Again, here we have like bio, marine bio meetings, and then major things happening, like this is a no school day, fall fest, things for the week is kind of how that column got used. But yeah, this is my life, guys. This is why I have not been posting. Oops. This is why I have not been posting as much during the school year. Anyway, so this book is finishing out January. I have just enough where I can finish out January. Another cool thing about the Lectrum is that it has this big pocket in the back. Okay, so we've kind of identified the major things that I want to take away from this book. Let's look at the new book. So guys, I apologize for the poor light. The sun went down a long time ago. Setting up a bullet journal always takes longer than you think. So just put on good music and it goes by pretty quickly. Anyway, just wanted to talk briefly about the things I decided to transfer from my old journal into my new journal. The bell schedule and master schedule didn't change a thing. I just need to get my highlighters from work and fill in, like color code the schedules, but other than that, didn't want to change a thing, and I decided to move it to the front page because I found myself referencing this quite a bit. Next page is the second half of the academic calendar. Because this book is only going to be used from February to June, it doesn't make any sense to move anything prior to that over to this one. I wanted my personal goals to be right next to my academic calendar, so every time I make a monthly, I see them. I put the one that was most important to me at the very top, and then I also added some of the notes from the Conscious Classroom Management stuff in here, the ones that I referenced the most and needed to see the most often. So these are kind of my personal goals as an educator and for growing this year. Teaching resources. So I consolidated a bunch of papers, or pages rather, from my previous notebook into one. So I have lesson planning over here, technology, guest speakers over here, professional opportunities, funding, relationship building activities, and movies over here. So everything is in one spot now. So I love this one. I think it's there's plenty of room to add as I get more and more resources. And the cool thing about erasable markers is if I need to move these around, then I can. Next page, wish list. So these are notes that I took from a phone call with a field trip that I hope to organize later this year. So the nice thing about these giant Post-its is you can just stick them anywhere. Also in the wish list, I divided up into materials and ideas. So these are things that in the future I would like to incorporate, but I'll just stick that there. Important numbers, so student and parent guardian, which is right next to the parent communication log and ABC logs that I talked about earlier. I think these are essential. They really help you find patterns and really help you keep on top of who you're calling. Teacher dashboard, love this thing. Again, the plan, materials, grade, check-in, calls, emails, and the nice thing is that I can just grab things from my teacher dashboard over here and stick them in here when the time comes for me to move over, so the flow is going to be pretty much uninterrupted. And then my first monthly is February. So of course I went with pink and red because it's Valentine's month. And then to set up the rest of the notebook, like all the dailies, it's so simple for me. I just fold it in half and then put the day at the top, the brief lesson plan, and then reflections on how that lesson went. So that requires no preparation at all. So I'm really excited to move into this new notebook. I feel like I really figured out from this first notebook exactly what I need to move over. So anyway, I hope that this notebook is helpful for you, especially if you're an educator or if you just have a super busy life. And I hope that these spreads are handy.